as the market changes, what's happening when you leave those prices the same is you are diminishing your own profits, but you're still doing the same work. And it's your responsibility as the owner of a business to always reassess what your pricing looks like and make changes accordingly, because your number one responsibility, although you may think it's to your customers, is to your business. It's to the health of the business. And if you're not ensuring that your business stays healthy, you won't have a business, and therefore you won't be able to serve those customers either.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited. We have a very, very special guest. We're actually bringing in one of my friends from the Trust, Lisa Larter. And Lisa, I think that you guys are in for a special treat because, I call her the go-to guru for everything. This lady can definitely speak about multiple different topics. Lisa Larter is a business strategist by background. She's also a digital marketing expert. She's an author, a speaker, as well as a podcast host. And Lisa is the owner of a company called Lisa Larter Consulting. And what she does is she helps her companies really formulate marketing strategies that support their business goals and objectives by really increasing their visibility, their leads, and their sales and customer acquisition. Lisa provides strategy and advisory services, as well as full suite of implementation services that include social media, content management, book marketing campaigns, podcast management, as well as website design. And her newest release for you guys that are major book readers like myself is called Masterful Marketing, which she actually co-authored with Alan Weiss. And this book was written to really help business owners dominate their markets with value-based approach. So I'm excited today to bring on Lisa Larter. And today we're going to have a different topic. We're going to talk about strategy. And we're going to talk about shifting, and we're going to talk about economic change and what you as a business owner really need to be doing in your business. Because yes, if you have not noticed yet, the market has changed. And today we're going to talk about what do you do to adapt? Because, at Profit First, we believe that you can be profitable in any economy. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Larter to our platform. Hey, Lisa, how you doing this morning?
I am good. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, I am excited to have you. And this is a really good conversation. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation with you, Lisa, because you have such a diverse background. First of all, Lisa she's an American, but she's a Canadian. She's lived in both sides of our world on this part of the hemisphere. But she has run a multiple of different businesses. I know you've had retail many, many years ago. Now you have this new business here, or not even new business, it's been here for a while, the marketing business. So tell us a little bit about you and really just all your different experiences.
I think sometimes I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, my husband and I have owned several businesses, and I grew up in retail, and I was recruited, I think it was in 97, into the wireless industry. And I helped one of Canada's largest telcos build their retail distribution channel. I was responsible for about $100 million in retail sales and about 1,000 people in 150 locations. And so I left that career job and opened my own bricks and mortar retail store. We also, my husband owned a pavement marking company. We owned a lawn care company, a gift basket company, a microbrewery, like you name it. We've done all kinds of different types of businesses. I think that, when you have that entrepreneurial spirit, when you see an opportunity, you take it. And sometimes those opportunities turn out really great. And sometimes they're, not what you thought they would be. And so I've just, built and sold and built again a bunch of different businesses. And it's been a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. You've seen a lot of shifts, right, in the world and the economy and really even industries, right, that have gone through significant changes and realize, it's time to get out of them, right, when that happens. And it's interesting because, a lot of our entrepreneurs, for a lot of people, COVID years were really good years. I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but for many businesses, you had PPP, you had EIDL, and the needs didn't go away, right? Just how we bought things went away. And a lot of people were able to have some of the best years ever. And what I'm seeing, from the fractional CFO world is a lot of entrepreneurs are having a hard time pivoting from that, right? And they're having a hard time, not necessarily realizing that things have changed, but really that come to Jesus moment that I got to change, right? I got to change to continue to survive. And so for those of you guys who are on the fence, Lisa, let's first of all talk about what are the signs that things are changing? How do you know in your business that what was working before is not going to work and carry you forward with that? What are the signs with that?
Well, I think there's always signs when you look at your numbers. There's always signs when you look at, the revenue that you're bringing in, the profit that you're keeping, what your expenses are, how your customers are behaving. Like there's always data that supports the change. And so if you're paying attention to the numbers, you can see the trends happening in your business. And so there are definitely measurable trends like that. But then there are also things that I think you just intuitively notice that are different in terms of how people are buying. I mean, I know some of my clients who had brick and mortar stores who transitioned people to shopping online. The first year that the businesses opened up, they really struggled to get foot traffic back into the store. And so they had to really pivot and rethink their marketing, because now what they want to do is they want to maintain their online sales and they want to grow their foot traffic. And so I think it's just looking at those metrics, those indicators, those signs, and figuring out, what do I need to do differently based on what you're seeing. I mean, one of my favorite expressions is one that Keith Cunningham wrote, which is, a business is not a bathrobe. There is no one size fits all. And so your business is unique and different, and your customer base is unique and different. Their buying patterns are unique and different. The way you market and attract them is going to be unique and different. And so you have to pay attention to what's working and what's not working. And when something isn't working, figure out, how do I shift into something that is going to work differently for me?
I love that. I love that. First of all, you guys know, and I feel like I'm speaking really to you guys, you guys are listening to a financial podcast. So I know your books are in order, right? I know you guys got monthly financials, right? There's nobody listening that doesn't have financials, hopefully. But right, it's looking at them, right, week by week, month by month, and going, what are the trends? What am I seeing here? What are my gross margins? What are my gross margin percentages? What's working? And really making those decisions from that is where you start to go from. Now, where I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle is they're like, okay, I just had a bad month. I had a bad quarter, right? And sometimes a bad month and a bad quarter, they add up to be a bad half a year, which means you're starting to draw from that line of credit, right? You're starting to not pay off that credit card every single month. And eventually that can be quite substantial for some people, because eventually
and stressful.
It's going to run out. That interest rate is going super high right now, right? And so let's talk about knowing when to cut the core on an investment strategy that you've been doing. So what may have worked wonderful a year ago, what doesn't work now, because I know that you've gone through a couple of businesses. What was the triggering moment that, it's time for me to get out? I love Kenny Rogers, every hand's a winner, every hand's a loser, right? It's about knowing which one.
For me, when I've decided to exit businesses, it's typically because I'm predicting what the future is going to look like. And I'm seeing that the runway that was looking really favorable is no longer looking favorable. So I've sold two businesses myself personally. I sold one for pennies on the dollar, and I sold one for a nice chunk of change. And the difference between the two of them is, one, I saw the runway, and the other I didn't. So the one that I sold for pennies on the dollar, I basically sold it when the sales had dried up and the valuation was gone. And so I was able to get some money for the inventory that I had and the brand equity, but I wasn't able to really recoup a lot of money. Whereas the other business I sold at a high. I was able to anticipate that the market was going to change, but I sold when we were profitable. I sold when we had good cash flow. I sold when we had good brand equity. And I think that is one of the things that's really important. The time to sell your business isn't when it's bleeding. The time to sell your business is when it's doing well. And so when you get into a situation and your business isn't doing well, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck if you sell it then. So, what I would be doing is, if my business wasn't doing well, I would be saying, how can I pivot and change this business and really kind of maximize my sales, maximize my profits, maximize my cash flow, reduce my expenses, and make this really appealing to someone so that I can sell it. And when you're looking at selling a business, what's really important is really the last 2 to 3 years of your financials, because that's what someone else is looking at to see, how the business performs. So I think what's important is when you have that bad month, that, that's a one-off. That's an exception. We all have bad months. But when you have a bad quarter and then you have another bad quarter, that's on you. Because at the end of the first bad quarter, you should have been looking more carefully at what went wrong and what can I do differently. When I work with my clients, I teach them that they need to be revenue generators. They need to know how to go out and make money on demand, because that's what your business is there for. It's there for you to generate revenue. So, 1 month, it's an exception. 2 months, it's a pattern. And so you got to step back and you need to reprioritize and re-strategize and figure out, how do I get this thing back on track? Because if you let it continue to go off the rails, then you're impacting the valuation of your business. And when you do want to sell it, you're going to make pennies on the dollar instead of getting a good ROI on your investment.
I love that, and you're absolutely right. The rolling 18 months, we just went through an acquisition, and that rolling 18 months was critical, right? They want to see, how are you doing? Not just like for the full 18 months, but month by month, are you going up? You going down? Like where you heading at? Right. So that rolling 18 months is very important too with that. And it's too, I think a lot of times people give that advice of, if you've got an underperforming sector, sell it, or not sell it, but stop taking clients, right? Or get rid of those clients, fire those clients. Right. But, selling that part of the business is also an option too, right? Versus just going ahead and just firing clients, right? Maybe somebody else can run that with that has more bandwidth, might be a good option for them from that standpoint.
I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule. So 20% of your customers typically generate 80% of your revenue. But there's also a mix of what they're buying in that 80-20. And so when your revenues start to shift, go look at the 80-20 again. Go look at what 20% of what you're selling right now is generating 80%. And how is that different from the 20% you were selling a year ago? Because there's information in there about what your buyers want right now. And that information allows you to tee up your marketing so that you can be more successful, because now you're marketing to what your buyers want versus what they used to want. And that's what happens in marketing sometimes, is we hang on to what people used to want for far too long.
I love that. And that's another thing too, making sure your accounting system gives you that type of easy detail. So if you got after the fact bookkeeping and they're putting everything to one line, call it sales, that's not going to do you any good.
No,
right?
No.
Break it out into classes, divisions, product line, looking at your margins, everything should not be classified as sales.
Right. And if you haven't raised your prices since COVID, you're the only one who hasn't, because everybody's raised their prices, and they've raised their prices a lot. So if you haven't done that, you need to really look at what you're doing and stop letting fear get in the way of you right-sizing your business for what the market is today.
Right. You're absolutely right. Because, if your margins are going down, right, then that's going to drive a loss, even if sales are wonderful because you're the best deal in town.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, nobody wants to trade 4 quarters for $1. And some businesses are doing that because they haven't taken a hard look at what it costs to operate their business today. And what it costs to operate your business today is very different from what it cost in 2019. And so if you just look at your baseline expenses and compare line to line, you're probably paying 30 to 40% more in 2023 than what you paid in 2019. If your prices didn't go up to the same degree, then you're bleeding that money through your profits. You're losing it.
Oh, yeah. That $65,000 accountant that you had on staff is probably, $100K now for that same position. And it's surreal at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only just pricing, but inflation has caused everything that we buy to cost more, not just salaries, but like every little thing. Like I'm getting emails, and I always joke because our team, sometimes they get worried about telling our clients that our fees are going up. And I'm like, does Starbucks ask you for permission when they increase the price of a latte, or do they just increase the price of a latte? Like, I get it. If you're on a monthly recurring retainer program, you need to let people know prices are going up on such and such a date. That's an important, you need to be respectful. You don't just all of a sudden raise a price and not give anybody notice. but you can't avoid having conversations in the service industry about your fees going up. And if you're in the retail industry, you just got to raise your prices. You just need to change the sticker and get those prices up to where they need to be.
And it's so interesting because I meet so many entrepreneurs, and I think one of the biggest battles that they have initially is the fact that, they don't want to raise their prices. And I'm like, obviously you can't afford this business right now and you're under market, but it's almost like some guilt, like they're being slimy for like saying I need more to like not operate in the red anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can relate. I used to be afraid to raise. I actually used to have a philosophy. It's one of these things that I used to believe that I no longer believe. And I've shared this with my clients many years ago. I used to believe that you should grandfather prices. When people came in, you grandfathered them because they were loyal and they stayed with you long term. I no longer believe that, because as the market changes, what's happening when you leave those prices the same is you are diminishing your own profits, but you're still doing the same work. And it's your responsibility as the owner of a business to always reassess what your pricing looks like and make changes accordingly, because your number one responsibility, although you may think it's to your customers, is to your business. It's to the health of the business. And if you're not ensuring that your business stays healthy, you won't have a business, and therefore you won't be able to serve those customers either.
I love that. Your number one responsibility isn't necessarily to the customer, right? And that's what we all think when we start our business, right? We want to super serve. We want to like bring this to market like it's never been brought before. But at the end of the day, our priority is to preserve the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a great way to think about that. Now, Lisa, we've got genius here in the room with you. And I would be like totally like remiss to like not take advantage of this moment. So she's a marketing strategist, like a marketing genius. So we're going to take this moment and absorb her brain. So Lisa, tell us, okay, what's working now? What's working now in the marketing world?
That's a really hard question to answer because it depends. It depends on the business. Certain things are still working online. Certain things, traditional marketing is still working. What I think is working the best right now, though, is face-to-face, belly-to-belly, interactions, heart-to-heart interactions with real people. I think that so many of us were stuck behind computer screens for, 2.5 years, that where I'm seeing the biggest leads and biggest bang for my buck from a marketing perspective is getting out and interacting with people at events, going to conferences, hosting events for clients, getting to trade shows, whatever it is that you can do to actually reconnect on a personal level with people. I don't think that the online stuff, I think we all needed online when we could only be online. But now that we don't have to be online all the time and the restrictions are pretty much lifted and we can be around people, you need to take your sweatpants off, get dressed up again, and go out and meet people and interact with people. Because the one thing that doesn't change when it comes to marketing is people buy from people. There is no such thing as B2C and B2B, because business to consumer is still a person buying, and business to business is a person making a buying decision. So when all other forms of marketing feel like they're not working well, you need to double down on relationships. You need to make sure that you're top of mind for past buyers, existing buyers, and people that you want to do business with in the future.
I love that. And so for us introverts that are out there, like myself, that I've kind of enjoyed the COVID world, I'm like, I don't think I was lonely at all during COVID, right? It's going to be a different way, right, of getting out there, and it's getting out of ourselves, right? And maybe leaving those sweatpants at home, as Lisa says, right? And getting out there. Now, when you're choosing which avenues to be part of to get that, we'll call it belly to belly interaction, as you called it earlier, how do you choose which way or where to go in order to really increase that network and create those human to human connections?
I'm a really big fan of making a list of who your buyers are and writing down next to each person's name how you met them. Well, how did they find you? And when you do that, you will find patterns and trends, and you will notice that things like speaking events and attending certain people's events were places where you were able to actually interact with the ideal buyer. You want to make sure that you're showing up where your buyers show up. Sometimes I see people and they're all enamored with TikTok, and I'll say, okay, but are your buyers on TikTok? Well, I don't know. Well, how do you not know? There's this really, really interesting thing that we have online. It's called search. And if you click that magnifying glass and you type people's names in, you can find them. And you can figure out online what channels they're using. And therefore, you can figure out where's the best place for you to intersect with them. And when you figure out the best place to intersect with them, you can actually have conversations with them and say, hey, what are you planning to do this year? What events are you attending? And you can actually learn where you might be able to meet people in person. You can also host your own event. So a client of mine, a few weeks ago, I suggested to him that he host a dinner because he does a lot of business with C-level executives. And some of these C-level executives, they don't really have a place to go and connect. And I said, why don't you host a dinner and handpick and invite 6 to 8 of these executives to come and have dinner with you? No sales pitch, no ulterior motive, other than to bring people together and pick up the tab for dinner. Take them to a nice place, pick up the tab for dinner. Well, he did that. He invested $3,000 in having a really, really, really amazing dinner with an amazing group of buyers. How do you think that impacted his business? The relationship doors are wide open. They're all interacting with him now. They're all engaging with him now because he was giving without asking for anything in return. Well, the law of reciprocity says that when you give, someone wants to give back. And so I think sometimes we have to think outside of the box. If you want to interact with people in person, go look at 3 of your best buyers, invite 3 of your best buyers and 3 people you'd like to do business together and have dinner with them. And the 3 people who do business with you are going to talk about you in the most favorable way so that the 3 people that haven't done business with you are going to think, I'm crazy. I should be doing business with this person. Like, be creative about how you make these things happen. You don't have to just go to if you are more on the introverted side, you don't have to go to an event with, 1,000 people and feel awkward and uncomfortable. You can create your own micro event and still have that in-person interaction.
I love that. Create your own table with that.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like to eat? Even accountants like to eat,
Yeah.
So I definitely love that idea, about creating that and also finding your ideal buyer, right? Finding your ideal buyer and figuring out where do they hang out, having, even that 15-minute free conversation at a networking event to find out where they're going. Like you said, it's so valuable with that. And it didn't cost you anything, right?
Right.
Other than maybe the initial event that you signed up for, right? Is all that it costs you. So, it's just great advice, right? From a strategy standpoint. And like I said, if you're going on 2 months of losing money, it's time to reevaluate that strategy and try some of these new things. So get out of those sweatpants and go meet some people.
I think that sometimes people get confused about what marketing really is all about. Marketing isn't always about selling something. Marketing is about remaining visible. It's about being seen. It's about being top of mind. It's about providing value, helping people out. And when sales are down, a lot of times when I dive into what's not working in a business, it's because they've taken their foot off the gas when it comes to marketing. They're inconsistent. You and I both know, but we both have a podcast. It takes a ton of work to produce a podcast and release an episode every single week. It's not easy. There's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, effort, planning, preparation, and production that goes into doing this. But we do these things consistently because we know they're important and they're part of our brand. It's not because every single episode, somebody's knocking on our door saying, hey, I want to do business with you. We're playing the long game. And I think when it comes to marketing, too many people are fickle. Oh, I posted something on LinkedIn last month and I didn't get any traction. Like, last month? Like, how about trying to post something on LinkedIn 3 times a day? How about interacting with people on LinkedIn every single day? How about showing up consistently for over 6 months and seeing what happens? Most people don't have the stamina to do it. I'm reading a book right now, Adam Grant's new book, Hidden Potential, and he talks a lot about R.A. Dickey, the professional pitcher. He's a baseball guy. And he talks about how, he was a star and then he wasn't. And he got sent back to the lower leagues to practice, 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 practice. And it took him 7 years of practice in the lower leagues to finally make it, and another 7 years in the big leagues to become like a full-fledged star. That's 14 years of practice to make it. How many entrepreneurs give up after 14 days when it comes to their marketing? They're not willing to put the reps in. And nobody can do your push-ups for you. Like, you as a business owner need to be involved in your marketing if you want your marketing to work.
I love it. There's no Ozempic for marketing, guys. No Ozempic for marketing. You just got to do the work.
Mm-hmm. You got to do the work. It doesn't mean that you can't have people help you, but you can't abdicate responsibility without being involved. I scan my marketing regularly, and I will, I don't do it all. If you're talking to me, you're talking to me. It's me. But there are times where I'll see posts and I'll be like, hey guys, I don't like this. And I took it down. And hey guys, you need to change this to this. It's not right. Like, you have to monitor your marketing to ensure that it's on brand and it is, representing you and your business exactly the way you want it to.
I love it. I love it. So Lisa, this was amazing, like morsels of genius. I mean, just like how to realize when our strategy needs to change to just some ideas of really elevating what we're doing to generate more leads and more sales through a way that creates connection. I think that this has just been a brilliant conversation. And Lisa, one of the things that we like to ask our guests, as we're closing up, as we're wrapping up, is if you could leave our viewers and our listeners with one piece of advice. It can be personal, it can be business. What would that one piece of advice be?
The one piece of advice that I would leave people with is don't stop investing in you, because entrepreneurs, like business owners, can become, you can become stale and you can stagnate because you're not exposing your mind to new ideas. And sometimes that comes from reading books. Sometimes it comes from attending workshops, courses, events, and sometimes it comes from working with a mentor. There's an expression in the book, The Business of Expertise, which says, you can't read the ingredients on the outside of a jar when you're inside the jar. And so when you're in your business, you're inside the jar. And in order to have fresh ideas and to feel empowered to pivot and do things differently, you need fresh perspective. And that means investing in you to get that perspective from places that are not, an echo chamber of what you already think is the right thing to do. So challenge yourself to keep learning and growing in whatever manner works best for you. But you don't have to do it alone. There are other ways that you can get insight and support to help you. And I think that's the greatest way that you can apply leverage to your business, is to keep investing in you.
I love it. I love it. Just really great advice there. None of us arrive until we're 10 feet under. So let's keep arriving.
It's true.
Now, Lisa, for our viewers and listeners to find out more, to learn more about strategy and marketing and really taking their business to the next level in 2024, right? Because this is going to be a great year for us. What's the best way to contact you, to follow you, to learn more?
The best place is just go to lisalarter.com. That's my website. Almost all my social handles are at Lisa Larter. I'm pretty easy to find. There's a whole section on my website about strategy. I mean, strategy to me is, I think it's probably my zone of genius. I'm able to see people's potential and I'm able to see the paths. One of my clients once said to me, I feel like I'm stuck in the weeds and you separate them and you show me exactly where to go next. And so if people are looking for help with that kind of strategy, then just go to my website and you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about how I might be able to help.
Thank you, Lisa. What I'm going to do for you guys that are driving in your cars or walking, taking out that long needed walk, right? That's so refreshing. I'm going to go ahead and drop Lisa's site, lisalarter.com, in our show notes so that you can go back and definitely subscribe and follow her and learn more. Thank you, Lisa, so much for joining us, for sharing your immense wealth of knowledge for our listeners.
Thank you, Susanne, for having me. It's been great. And thank you for the work you do in helping entrepreneurs be profitable. It's, one of my passions too. I always say we need to move the bottom line to the top, and you help people do that every single day.
Thank you, Lisa.